Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You can hear, huh? Okay. Wait for a few more minutes. Pranit? Pranit,
Yes, yes, sir.
how do you put virtual background for your video? It was so easy.
Sir,
Can't be
sir, it
done.
doesn't.
Okay.
I am not sure about WebEx, sir.
Actually, it was so easy in Zoom is easier. Actually, and I attended few webinars from USA. They're all using Zoom only still. They're not bothered. Yesterday, I attended one from Toronto. I don't know, Azambir had sent the link, he saw or not.
Yes, sir, I was saying it, sir.
Yeah, so who is that? John Paul, one very famous, was talking about something. I also could not say full. So they're all using Zoom only. Yeah. So shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Shall we start? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can start, sir.
Okay. So good evening, everybody. I'll be talking about central retinal artery occlusion. Okay. What is central retinal artery occlusion? It is the blockage of the central retinal artery that supplies blood to the inner retina. It is an acute stroke of the eye and is an ophthalmic emergency. You should know that it's an emergency. It leads to profound loss of vision in 80% of the patients, so it's quite a serious one. And this is a picture of central retinal artery occlusion with a typical cherry red spot and opacification of the posterior retina. Von Greffer was the first to describe it in 1859 in a patient with infective endocarditis, and he very rightly suggested that embolus from the heart was the cause of central retinal artery occlusion. The incidence is much less than CRVO. It affects only 1 in 100,000 people, whereas CRVO, you know that about 3 people among 10,000 are affected. Just apply anatomy of the central retinal artery. The ophthalmic artery is the first branch of the internal carotid artery, you know that. And it enters the orbit through the optic canal along with optic nerve, and it's inferior to it in the optic canal. The central and after it emerges into the orbit, the ophthalmic artery gives central retinal artery. It's the first intraorbital branch, but sometimes it may not be. And the central retinal artery runs inferomedial to the optic nerve and then enters the optic nerve about 8 to 15 millimeter behind the globe. It pierces the dural sheath, then the arachnoid sheath, then the pia, and it enters the center of the optic nerve. From there, it courses straightway to the globe and emerges on the in the globe on the surface of the optic nerve head. So you can see that this is the ophthalmic artery arising from the internal carotid artery, and here you can see it is inferior to the optic nerve in the optic nerve canal. Then give the central retinal artery which runs inferomedial and then enters the optic nerve. You can see in this picture, the third picture, you can see that it enters and then emerges on the ocular nerve head surface. So in this picture, it's given diagrammatic representation. You can see that central retinal artery. What is this? This is the dural sheath of the optic nerve. It pierces how many millimeter? About 8 to 15 millimeter behind the globe. Then enter the subarachnoid space. Then enters the pia of the optic nerve head. Enters the center of the optic nerve. Along with what? There is one more vessel with this. What is that vessel? Yes. There is one more vessel with central retinal artery in the optic nerve center. What is that? Hello, are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So what is that? Another vessel? Huh? What is that?
Vein, sir.
What vein?
Central lateral vein.
Yeah, central retinal vein. Okay, both of them emerge. Actually, central retinal artery emerges on the surface, and central retinal vein actually exits. Okay. So the retinal blood supply, it has dual blood supply. All of you know, inner retina is supplied by the central retinal artery, and it's usually up to the inner nuclear layer and some part of the external outer plexiform layer also, inner 1/3 of outer plexiform layer also. And the outer retina from outer plexiform layer up to the RP layer is supplied by choroid through choriocapillaris. Okay. The central retinal artery, once it is on the surface of the optic nerve head, divides into two main branches. One is superior, another is inferior. The superior and inferior divide into temporal and nasal branches, which supply blood to the four quadrants of the inner retina. So if you can see here, this is the central retinal vein, the superior vein and inferior vein, and this is the central retinal artery. It divides on the surface of the optic disc into superior branch and inferior branch. You can see that the superior branch divides into superiotemporal and superionasal. Similarly here, inferior branch, inferinasal and inferotemporal branches. Then they further divide and supply the retina. And what about the outer retina of how it is supplied? 15 to 20 short posterior ciliary arteries, which are branches of the ophthalmic artery, pierce the sclera around the optic nerve at various distance actually, and form the vascular network of choroid and choriocapillaris. Choriocapillaris supplies the outer part of the retina. Both central retinal artery and the choriocapillaris network or the choroidal network is very important for retinal function. You know that. Now there is one special artery called cilioretinal artery. It's present in about 14 to 35% of the population, and it is not branch of the central retinal artery, but it's branch of the short posterior ciliary artery or circle of Zinn. It pierces the optic nerve head on the temporal side and supplies variable part of the macula. That's the problem actually. It doesn't supply all of the macula. In case of central retinal artery occlusion, the central vision may be preserved if the patient is lucky to have a cilioretinal artery and it is substantial. However, size of the cilioretinal artery and the area it supplies varies. Okay, so central retinal artery vision may be, if there is occlusion, the vision will be saved depending on how much area of the macula is supplied by the cilioretinal artery. Actually, a study of 260 eyes of central retinal artery occlusion showed that cilioretinal artery was present in about 14%, and of these, almost 60% had poor vision. That means it was supplying only little part. So they all had vision of 630 or worse. So only 40% had vision of 630 or better. So this is quite a large central cilioretinal artery. Can you tell me this fluorescein angiogram? Which phase of fluorescein angiogram is this? Anybody? Fast. Are you hearing me? Hello?
Lag is there.
Huh? What phase is this?
So lag is there. We are still on the previous slide.
Oh, okay. Now, okay, now? Can you see the fluorescein angiogram?
Phase.
Pardon? What phase is that?
Late phase, sir.
How can it be late phase? Anybody else?
Sir, arteriovenous phase.
See, where are the veins filled?
Periovenous phase.
So how can we call venous phase when there is no vein filled? When no artery filled except the cilioretinal artery. So what are you seeing? Actually, all the retinal vessels are dark. So the blood has not reached the optic nerve. It's a beautiful fluorescent angiogram from Kuwait. So, but there is background whitishness. So the choroid has filled because choroid is nearer to the blood supply. It gets filled fast. So it's actually pre-arterial phase or choroidal phase. And cilioretinal artery always fills up along with choroidal vessels because it is supplied by the choroidal vessels, short posterior ciliary arteries. Okay, so it is pre-arterial phase. No artery is filled, no vein is filled. Okay, so this is one more case of cilioretinal artery. You can see that the actually central retinal artery occlusion, there is opacification here, but there is central retinal artery of supplying this part. So that's why the color is normal in this area. Hello, anything? Is there any disturbance? Hello?
No disturbance, sir.
Okay. So you can see that there is normal color over the central part, but there is a surrounding opacification because of central retinal artery. And this has been because the cilioretinal artery supplies this part. This patient is lucky. Now, how does CRO occur and what is the location of central occlusion of the central retinal artery? It is usually blocked by an embolus at its narrowest part, and there are two sites where central retinal artery is very narrow. One is lamina cribrosa, or where central retinal artery pierces the dural sheath of the optic nerve. This, according to Hare, who is an authority on vein occlusions and artery occlusions, in his rhesus monkey experiments, the second side, that is where the central retinal artery pierces the dural sheath, is the narrowest part of the central retinal artery, and he feels that this is where the embolus will occlude the central retinal artery. So this is the part where the black arrow is there. Can you see this black arrow? This is the one where it is piercing the dural sheath. There is another part where it pierces the lamina cribrosa. This is another part where it's narrower. So these are the two parts possible. And what causes the occlusion? Embolism is the most common cause of central retinal artery occlusion. The major source of embolus usually comes from carotid artery disease, usually due to an atherosclerotic plaque, or from the heart. But thrombus formation is equally probable, especially at the lamina cribrosa level, and this is due according to Duker. And Kansky says that thrombosis is the main cause. Thrombosis due to atherosclerosis at the lamina cribrosa is the main cause of CRO in 80% of the cases, but he does not give any reference to support his claim. So what are the comorbidities in CRO? Almost 2/3 will have hypertension, quarter will have diabetes mellitus, cardiac valvular disease is seen in quarter of the patients, ischemic heart disease, cerebrovascular accidents, transient ischemic attacks are quite common in these patients, and smoking is a big risk factor, especially among men. Right eye and left eye are equally affected. Males are more affected than females, and in about 2% of the cases it may be bilateral, and bilateral cases it is usually due to cardiac valvular disease. So if there is a patient with myocardial infarction, a mitral valve prolapse, he may be throwing up emboli, so it may affect both eyes. Another is giant cell arteritis. Giant cell arteritis can affect both eyes if the first eye is not treated as soon as the first attack occurs. If you don't treat, the second eye may be involved very soon. Or other vascular disorders where there is a generalized problem in the body. So the causes of CRO are conditions which release emboli, trauma, coagulopathies which cause mainly thrombosis, but they may also cause embolus. And ocular conditions are there which can cause CRO, and collagen vascular diseases, they cause thrombosis mainly due to vasculitis, and there are some miscellaneous conditions. Regarding embolus formation, the most important is systemic hypertension. It acts actually not directly but via atherosclerotic plaque formation, because atherosclerosis, we know the greatest risk factor is hypertension. Carotid atherosclerosis, and you should know that about if you do CRO, the echo of the carotid arteries, okay, Doppler scan, 71% will have some plaque in the carotid artery, and there will be more than 50% stenosis in about 30% of the patients. And cardiac disease is also common. If you do echocardiograph, about 50% will show an source of emboli in the abnormal echocardiogram findings. So this may be mitral valve prolapse, arteriosclerosis, atrial regurgitation, thrombus after MI, or atrial fibrillation or cardiac myxoma, and others. Now, there are rare causes of emboli, deep vein thrombosis. This may be due to foraminal presence, so there may be paradoxical embolus. Intravenous drugs abuse can cause either the dirty material may enter or spasm of the artery. And radiological studies like carotid angiogram, lymphangiography have been reported to cause central retinal artery occlusion. Head and neck corticosteroid injections have caused embolus, and silicone injection for cosmesis around head and neck. So there are many people who take to fill up the eyelids and lips and other things, they take these injections, and they may go retrograde and block the central retinal artery. They have been reported. Now, trauma can cause by various means. By, for example, retrobulbar injection can increase the local pressure and cause central retinal artery occlusion, or it may directly rupture the central retinal artery. Orbital fracture can involve the central retinal artery. Penetrating injury can involve optic nerve head avulsion. Of course, the central retinal artery will be avulsed. And drug-induced stupor. So somebody has taken drug and he falls asleep on the eye, and there is continuous pressure on the eye. So the pressure increases in the eye and causes central retinal artery occlusion. Nasal surgery, endoscopic laser, endoscopic surgery, they may enter into the orbit without knowing and they may cut the central retinal artery. These are all being reported. Coagulopathies like thrombus formation can occur in sickle cell disease, oral contraceptives, pregnancy, protein S deficiency, protein C deficiency, and antithrombin 3 deficiency can all cause thrombus formation. There are some ocular conditions like prepapillary arterial loop. These are congenital conditions. They may usually cause BRAO. Optic nerve head druseness, high IOP like acute angle closure glaucoma can cause CRAO. Orbital cellulitis, we talked about mycosis. Okay, so that can cause the central retinal artery may be infiltrated by the infection. Optic neuritis can cause rarely a CRAO. Collagen vascular disorders cause inflammatory vasculitis leading to thrombus formation like systemic lupus erythematosus, antiphospholipid antibodies syndrome, polyarteritis nodosa, giant cell arteritis. Usually it causes anterior ischemic optic neuropathy of arthritic type, but it can also cause central retinal artery occlusion. Polyangiitis and Behcet disease are some of the other diseases. There are some miscellaneous conditions. Migraine causing CRAO has been known because it causes severe spasm. Hypotension, ventriculography, Lyme disease, Fabry's disease, and leukemias can infiltrate the optic neuropathy, constricting the central retinal artery and causing occlusion. Radiation retinopathy can cause inflammation and cause CRAO. So this is an example where the posterior pole shows a pacification and there is a cherry red spot. So in general, we should see whether the patient is less than 40 years or more than 60 years or more than 40 years rather. So those who are young, embolus from the heart valves, they are having rheumatic heart disease or mitral valve prolapse congenital disease. So that is the embolus, the source of embolus for these patients. Or they may be having collagen vascular disorders. So younger patients concentrate on these reasons, these etiologies: coagulopathies, trauma, drug abuse, sickling hemoglobinopathies, or optic nerve head druseness or other other anomalies, or migraine. But whereas patient is older, the emboli are usually from atherosclerotic plaque in the internal carotid artery or other aorta, or sometimes from internal carotid artery, or sometimes even from ophthalmic artery, or emboli from the heart, or giant cell arteritis, or thrombus in central retinal artery due to atherosclerosis. So these are the causes in old and these are the causes in young. So when a patient comes, you should try to categorize and try to investigate accordingly. We don't go out and do blanket investigations for everybody. So HARE classifies CRAO into two main types. One is arthritic and non-arthritic. Non-arthritic is where there is no giant cell arteritis. That's what he means. And arthritic is usually giant cell arteritis. Non-arthritic can be permanent CRAO, which you usually see, and transient means it's something like transient ischemic attack and it resolves on its own. Or central retinal artery occlusion with cilio-retinal artery sparing. If there is a good cilio-retinal artery, there is a good sparing of the macula. The clinical presentation can be sudden. It's usually sudden actually. It occurs over second. There is painless, profound loss of vision in the affected eye. This is the most important presentation in case of central retinal. Sudden, painless, profound loss of vision in the affected eye. Visual acuity usually ranges from counting fingers to perception of light only in 90% of the cases. And if cilio-retinal artery is there, there can be some good central vision. If there is no perception of light, think of ophthalmic artery occlusion. Okay. And some patients give history of preceding amaurosis fugax, means there is transient obscuration of the vision in one eye lasting for seconds to minutes, then it has come back. So this might be due to the cholesterol, whatever emboli are coming there making that. Now when he has developed permanent this one, he comes to us. So this history may be elicited in some patients. So take history regarding hypertension, diabetes, transient ischemic attacks, or history of stroke in the past, cardiac diseases. So these are all important. And patients in older ask about jaw claudication, fever, fatigue, joint pain, temporal area. All this line is for giant cell arteritis. Smoking is a risk factor. In younger patients, you take history of trauma, surgery, prolonged head posture with pressure on the eye, or history of any systemic illness like bleeding disorders, skin rashes, fever, or joint pain to rule out collagen vascular disorders. Contraceptive pills in women, and drug abuse in young patients, and cosmetic fillers in ladies. Ocular examination, you should start with the best corrected visual acuity. You should assess whether it's only light perception, hand movement, or counting fingers, or he can see something on Snellen chart. And ocular examination after visual acuity, you should first do afferent pupillary defect and RAPD is always present in case of central retinal artery occlusion. Anterior segment check for NVI. If present with fresh CRO, it usually indicates ocular ischemic syndrome with CRO. And IOP, if there is acute angle closure glaucoma, can have CRO, so it may be high. But if it is low, then then suspect ophthalmic artery occlusion, then only central retinal artery occlusion. Can somebody say why ophthalmic artery occlusion causes reduced IOP? Quick. Ophthalmic artery causes reduced IOP. Anybody? Quick. Are you there or everybody has left? Hello?
There, sir.
Yeah, are you there or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so why there is less IOP in ophthalmic artery occlusion compared to central retinal artery occlusion? Anybody?
Sir, the production of aqueous humor will be less due to blood supply to the ciliary.
Decreased in the pressure gradient, sir.
No. The Alex is correct. Why ophthalmic artery causes less blood supply to ciliary body and not CRO? Not CRO. Why?
Sir, that one of the branches directly supply the long posterior ciliary
Yeah,
artery supply
there
to
are
the
not
ciliary
one.
body.
There are two, medial and lateral. They supply the ciliary body and the anterior segment. Okay, so that's the reason. So because no blood supply, there will be hypotonic. Dilated fundus examination, usually media is clear in central retinal artery occlusion. So then what do you see in the fundus? Disc may be normal, it may be pale, or very rarely some swelling may be there. Then swollen pale disc with splinter hemorrhages, it's not central retinal artery occlusion. It's usually anti-ischemic optic neuropathy of giant cell arteritis or non-arteritic ischemic optic neuropathy. The vision may be very less, but if there is swollen pale disc with splinter hemorrhages, you would suspect these conditions, not central retinal artery occlusion. Now, what is the most glaring finding? There is whitish gray yellow area in the posterior pole with macula showing a cherry red spot in the center. This is the pathognomonic sign of central retinal artery occlusion. The development of opacification of retina takes hours to develop after CRO occurs, and arteries will be thin and narrow, and there may be boxcar segmentation, also called as cattle truck appearance, can be seen in both arteries and veins, and this is a sign of severe obstruction. So what is that actually? I'll show the picture. A retinal opacification or whitening is less marked outside the posterior pole. Why? Why it is less marked outside the posterior pole, though there is central retinal artery occlusion all over the fundus? Quick. Because the ganglion cell layer is very thin in outside, whereas the posterior pole is 4 to 5 cell layer thick. That's why it is so opaque. Okay. Did you hear or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, so to summarize the fundus findings in recent CRO, usually within 7 days, if you see, there is retinal opacity in the posterior pole, mostly seen in 60% of patients. Cherry red spot will be seen in 90% of the patients. Cattle trucking will be seen in only about 20%. Retinal arterial attenuation will be seen in 30%. Optic disc edema may be there or pallor may be there in varying number of patients. So if you see in 7 days, it's not that you are seeing immediately. Okay, so this is a very nice case from Kuwait. You can see that the disc is pale. Okay, you can see that the vein is broken, the column of blood is broken. The arteries are very, very narrow. Can you see all of this?
Can't see the slide.
Pardon?
Can't see the slide, sir.
You cannot see the slide. Why?
No, sir, we are in
There is
the
lag,
slide
sir.
of.
We cannot.
Actually, I think
Now we
Zoom
can
is.
see,
It came just now.
I think Zoom is better. I think. Okay, so you can see now. Can I talk? Okay, this disc is pale. You can see the white arteries, they are so narrow. Okay, number 2. Number 3, the veins, you can see that the blood column is not continuous but broken, as though there are cars going in a highway. So that's called cattle trucks. The cattle trucks in America on a highway, a lot of them used to go together. So that's why it's called cattle truck appearance or boxcar appearance. And what is most important, there is actually opacification on the posterior pole, and the macula stands out, foveola stands out here, giving a cherry red spot. And what is this hard exudate ring? Is it a sign of central lateral artery occlusion? Anybody? Is this hard exudate ring a sign of central lateral artery occlusion?
No, sir.
Then why it is there?
Yes, sir.
Yes or
X-ray
no?
itself. Hard X-ray.
Pardon? So is it a sign of central
Yes, sir.
artery occlusion?
Yes, sir.
No, it is not. There is nothing like that. It is actually patient is having diabetic retinopathy and he's okay. So we can see in the posterior pole now near the disc. Can you see, all of you can see? There is a normal color area. This is because there is a small thin vessel here. This is a cilioretinal artery which is supplying this part. Okay, that's why the color is preserved in this area. But unfortunately, it was not supplying the macula, so the macula is affected. The vision is poor. So this is actually red-free photograph. Okay, now why does cherry red spot occur? This occurs because the inner retinal layers, which are made up of ganglion cell layer, they undergo necrosis. So because they undergo necrosis, they become whitish. They no more remain transparent. And this opacification takes to develop between 15 minutes to 6 hours. The opacification is very dense in the posterior bole because there are a lot of ganglion cells around the fovea, 4 to cell layer thick. The center of the macula, the fovea, has no ganglion cell, no nerve fiber layer, no other cells. So that's why, and only foveal cones as well as the outer nuclear layer only. So there is no opacification because they are supplied from the choroid. Okay, so fovea is supplied with the choroid, so it maintains the normal color. So because of the contrast between the normal fovea, which is it's having normal color, it has not become red, but the surrounding part is opacified, so that contrast gives a reddish appearance. It's called cherry red spot. Okay, so this you can see in this part that there is a cherry red spot and the surrounding part is whitish. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you, sir.
Okay. So now we'll go to cherry red spot. Other causes, Berlin's edema due to trauma is the most important cause. There are some storage disorder. They are very rare, like Tay-Sachs disease, Niemann-Pick disease, Sandoff disease, Sialidosis. There are a few more actually. There are a big list actually, but they are so rare. They always occur in children, so they are not very important. But sometimes one may confuse with foveal hemorrhage, the cherry red spot, a macular hole, somebody may say, but there will be no whitening. But ERM, there may be whitening and there is a pseudo hole. So then some people may confuse, but it's very, very clear usually if you examine properly. Very rare to confuse with a central retinal artery occlusion. So retinal hemorrhages or cotton wool spots are very rare in case of CRAO. One may see an embolus in case of CRAO on the disc or its branches. You should look for optic nerve head drusen and other abnormalities on the central retinal artery, on the fundus, and check the other eye for hypertensive retinopathy, diabetic retinopathy, or previous vascular occlusions. Now, retinal emboli can be seen about 20% of the CRAO cases. Then there are about 3 types of emboli. One is cholesterol calcific, another is platelet fibrin. Now, carotid artery, aortic arch, ophthalmic artery, and proximal central lateral artery, and the heart. Yes, anything? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay. So the important source of emboli are these organs: heart plus carotid artery, aortic arch, ophthalmic artery, and proximal central lateral artery. In all, 74% of the emboli are made up of cholesterol, 10.5% from calcific material, and 15.5% are fibrin material. Now, regarding cholesterol emboli, they are called as Hollenhorst plaques. They are glistening, yellow, small, and refractile. They are usually seen at the arterial branching. They originate from atherosclerotic plaques in the carotids. They may also arise from aortic arch, ophthalmic artery, and sometimes the central lateral artery itself. They are small and usually they do not cause obstruction. They cause temporary obstruction, causing a TIA, often seen in asymptomatic patients. A patient may not have symptoms, but we will see these emboli, and we have seen. So you can see that these actually, because black and white picture, you cannot see the yellow color. You can see that they are usually situated at the arterial branching. So this is the cholesterol plaques. Coming to calcific plaque, they are single white, they are non-scintillating, means they are not shining. They are located usually in the proximal retinal vasculature. They are less common, they are larger. They cause more severe obstructions and they originate usually from cardiac valves where there is calcification. So this is where you can see this part, you can see there's a whitish this one, and actually one I could not locate that. There was one lady with hemiretinal artery occlusion. I don't know which PG was there with me. So she had that embolus in the artery actually. Now, fibrin platelet, majority of the central retinal artery occlusions are caused by platelet fibrin thrombi as a result of atherosclerotic disease, and they account for over 2/3 of all cases of CRO. They can be transient sometimes. They are seen as small pale bodies, can cause amaurosis, Figex also sometimes. So this is actually seen, white part is seen, and there is one more here. So small white plaque, it actually occupies, they are actually longitudinal. They may occupy the whole length of the arterial tree. What is the significance of retinal emboli seen in routine fundus? Sometimes we see this retinal emboli. Then what is their significance? The CRO may be present or may not be present. Very important that if you see an emboli, refer him to a physician, because the mortality of these patients is retinal emboli. They don't have CRO as of now. So is 56% over 9 years compared to only 27% for an age-matched population without any embolus. So embolus means there is something throwing up, and these patients are susceptible to develop stroke and IHD and other things. So that's why their mortality is high, and they should be referred to a neurologist. Now, what are the later changes, the acute changes we saw? The opacification, cherry red spot, narrowing of the vessels, etc., etc. Late changes are the disc may become pale, retinal arteries will show attenuation, cilioretinal collaterals like in CRO can develop in 18%. Macular pigment changes are rare, they happen in only about 10% of patients. So this is one girl actually in Kuwait. She had this central retinal artery occlusion. I did about 100 investigations, I could not find the cause. And this is what 6 months later, she has some RPE changes, and the disc can be seen to be actually very pale. The same girl, after 2 years, you can see that the disc has become further pale, and the OCT shows.
There's a lag in the slides.
Okay. So
We cannot see that fundus picture. There's a
now you can see.
We are in slide number 50, sir, right now.
Oh, still 50.
We are on slide number 50 only.
What is this? This is due to my problem or due to your problem or due to the web?
Server issues, sir.
Pardon?
We
Web
cannot
access.
see, sir.
Okay. Can you see now 51?
We are on
No,
50,
sir,
sir,
it's
right
still
now.
displaying slide number. Yes, sir, now we can see.
Yes, sir, now 51.
Yes, sir.
Let me see. Okay. So the late fundoscopy changes are pale disc, retinal artery attenuation, cilioretinal collaterals, and macular pigment changes. They are usually rare actually. Okay. Now can you see 52? Hello?
No, sir, not yet.
Not yet,
No,
sir.
sir, we can't see.
Okay. So this is a patient. I told you about a girl who had central retinal artery occlusion. I don't know what was the reason. And 6 months later, you can see that there is mild pigmented changes, but the disc is definitely pale here. And the OCT shows there is retinal thinning. And after 2 years, the disc has become further paler, and the retina shows severe atrophy. Which slide you are on now? 53?
52, sir.
52 still? Oh my.
52, sir.
What is this? Actually, I'm having Geo dongle. It's supposed to be good.
Now
Next
we are
step,
on 53, sir.
53. Okay. So this is 2 years later. You can see that the disc is pale. Okay. And the OCT shows retinal atrophy. 54, are you seeing?
Yes, sir.
Now, sir.
Okay. So this is one patient in KLE only. He had actually, we did his carotid. He was actually 40. We never expected. His carotid artery is completely blocked by hemorrhagic plaque. So this patient, you can see that there's a cherry red spot, and there is pale, opacified retina, and the OCT was very thick. And after about 8 months, you can see disc is pale, and the retina shows on OCT there is thinning. So, but you can see that outer retina is still intact. Those layers are intact because they're not affected. This is another patient from Kuwait. You can see very clearly. Can you see now 55? Hello?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Now 55 we can see.
Okay, this patient from Kuwait, January 2017, he presented. You can see that the inner retinal tears are very thick because of the opacification. They're hyperreflective and the foveal contour is still maintained. There is cherry red spot. And after 10 days, actually, we don't know, he developed few hemorrhages, but you can see the opacification part has become less. Can you see this? Opacification area has become less and fovea has developed some edema here. Can you all see? So the opacification gradually resolves actually. And
Yes,
the
sir.
same patient, after about 4 months, you can see that the disc has developed pallor and the hemorrhage is still there, that the opacification has completely gone. The OCT shows atrophy. And after about another 2 months, you can see that OCT has become much thinner now. The retinal layers have become much thinner. And what do you see in the optic disc? There is pallor, as well as the arteries, retinal arteries are very, very thin. You can see all this red chart, you can see all the quadrant, it shows retinal thin. Can you all see 56? Okay, 57.
We
Now,
are
No,
still
sir.
on 55, sir.
Sir,
50.
55.
Oh my God. So this must be, I don't know.
Maybe the image slides are taking time to load.
Oh. So can we try on Zoom next time? I don't think it should be a big matter actually.
Yes, we can
Next-
try Zoom, sir. At least that is not lagging.
Not today, next time we'll
Yes,
try
yes,
to finish
yes.
off. Okay. Okay, what slide you are on?
55, sir.
Okay. So this I showed you within 10 days he had the opacification had become less, but he had developed some retinal hemorrhages probably due to hypertension. 56 are you seeing?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir. Now we are on 56.
okay. So you can see the same patient about 4 months later, the OCT shows thinning of the retina and there is disc pallor, and about another 2 months later, disc is more pale and the retina is much thinner. 176 micron it was in the center. Now it has become 140 micron, just near the center actually. Can you see 57 now?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So suppose you see in the OPD a central retinal artery occlusion you detect, what will you do?
Now we can see, sir. 57.
So actually this is a very important thing. What to do if you see an acute CRO in the clinic. So you don't tell that I'm going to investigate, I'm going to do this one. Maximum what you should do is take pulse rate, take blood pressure, okay, take blood pressure, then try to do some measures to dislodge the embolus and restore the circulation. So after, and one more important thing is, after what duration do the retinal changes due to ischemia become irreversible? That is known as retinal ischemia tolerance time. So when you see in acute stage, we should try to do some measures to dislodge the embolus from the central retinal artery and restore the circulation. And we should also know at this juncture how many hours or how many days the retinal can tolerate ischemia. Okay, can you see 58 now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, actually, Hare, he did rhesus monkey experiments and he showed that up to 97 minutes of central experimental, he had occluded the vessels. There was no detectable changes in the retina. Between 105 to 240 minutes, there were some changes, but they were reversible if the circulation was restored. But after 20 to 40 minutes, that means 4 hours and beyond, there are massive irreversible damage in the retina. So 4 hours is supposed to be the ischemia, retinal ischemia tolerance time. It's called as retinal ischemia tolerance time for rhesus monkeys. But what is it there in humans, we cannot tell. But there is one review which showed that all the measures they took after 1 hour or after 30 minutes, they were all not giving results because they say, according to their analysis, that it is just 15 minutes. If the central retinal artery is occluded for 15 minutes, that means the retina is gone. If you do anything beyond that. Are you on 59? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they tell that it's only about
Yes,
15
sir.
minutes.
59.
Okay. They tell that it's only about 15 minutes. Anyway, So it's somehow we should give chance up to 4 hours definitely, but up to 24 hours we try to do something. So, and whatever we do, it is only to dislodge emboli. And if there is something due to trauma or due to some inflammatory vasculitis, which is called thrombosis, you can't reverse that embolus. Okay, so it is only for old people who have some embolus or from the heart. So we can try to do that. So how do you do? We cause hypotony of the eye. The hypotony is supposed to cause arterial dilatation. Or we can give some drugs to directly dilate the central retinal artery so that the artery lumen becomes large and the embolus moves to the next circulation. So it goes to the periphery and there is some blood restoration takes place to the retinal blood vessels. So what are the measures you can do in the OPD? You can massage the eye. So put pressure on the eye for 10 seconds, leave it. Put pressure for the on the eye for 10 seconds and leave it. So this is supposed to, sudden release of the pressure will cause vasodilatation. The retinal artery dilates, the embolus get dislodged. Or you can give injection Diamox, 500 mg stat, or give IV mannitol. Or you can do all of them together actually. You can give sublingual isosorbide or IV pentoxifillin. These actually dilate the artery. They don't act through hypotony, but they act directly on the arteries. Or you can do inhalation of oxygen and carbon dioxide mixture, 95% oxygen and 5% carbon dioxide. Or you can, if that is not available immediately, you can give a plastic bag and ask him to breathe in that. Because you are breathing in the plastic bag, carbon dioxide increases, and carbon dioxide inhaled is a vasodilator. Okay, so it may cause vasodilatation and the embolus may dislodge. Or you can do an emergency anterior chamber paracentesis. Don't take him to the OT. So usually in West they do it on the slit lamp. But what you should do, you should put proparacaine drops first, then put betadine 5% 2-3 times, then take him on the slit lamp and take a 30 gauge tuberculin syringe, remove the piston and pierce at the limbus and press the posterior lip of the limbus so some aqueous will escape through the syringe. Are you on 61 or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this sudden release of the sudden paracentesis will cause sudden hypotony, and that makes the central retinal artery dilate, and if the embolus is there, it will go. Actually, this there is some according to this, if this works, that means the embolus has to be in the lamina cribrosa or in this one. If according to Hare, if it is behind where it enters the optic nerve, 15 millimeter behind, then whatever hypotony should not act actually. So this is one clinical finding which is against his theory actually. There are other treatments like antifibrinolytic agents. You can actually directly give the antifibrinolytic agents in the ophthalmic artery so that it enters the CRO and the clot is dissolved, or you can give systemically, but we'll discuss that later. Now, after you do everything in the OPD, if it doesn't, then you should start investigating for what is the cause of central retinal artery. So I have put them in a different chronology, because in the exam, if they ask what will you do first, I don't go on telling investigation. I'll immediately do some hypotensive measure so that the embolus may dislodge. So that is a site saving measure. Actually, if you don't tell, it's a very major mistake. Are you on 63? Are you hearing me? Hello?
62, sir.
You're 60.
61.
Oh my God. 61. So this we may finish.
We are on 63.
62 is the, yeah, 62 we antifibrinolytic. I'll tell about that later. So the second part of management I'll tell later. Now we'll come to the next management is investigations. So because you should try in the OPD those measures I enumerated, so that you make an attempt to dislodge. Most of the times, 90% of the times or 95% of the times, they fail. They don't yield any results. Most of them are irreversible. But sometimes you may be lucky. Okay. So what are the physical examination in the OPD? Pulse, BP, carotid bruise. You should always auscultate in the exam. Should show that you are auscultating the neck, and you should auscultate the heart for any cardiac murmurs. In older patients, ask for any muscle weakness, fever, jaw claudication, and look for temporal artery tenderness or tortuosity there to rule out temporal arteritis or giant cell arteritis. In younger patients, you should do systemic examination or do a referral to identify mainly connective tissue diseases or cardiac valvular defects. We are on 64. Are you?
62 only.
Oh my God. But my voice, there is lag, or the voice, there is no lag in voice.
No, sir, there is no lag in voice. There is lag in slides, that antifibrinolytic agents and discuss. Yes, sir. Now it's 63.
Lab investigations?
64, sir. Not
Yes,
63.
yes, okay. So lab investigations are CBC, ESR, FBS, lipid profile, and Syria. Why should ESR we should do? Anybody? Quick. ESR. What is that?
Sir, phagocytosis or sickle cell.
No. Most important.
Autoimmune disease.
No. Most important reason we do ESR, especially in an old patient with CRO, is to rule out giant cell arthritis. Remember that. That and C-reactive protein. But routinely you should do CBC, FBS, lipid profile, C-reactive protein. Carotid Doppler must. Cardiac reference and echocardiogram must to detect the source of MLS. So carotid Doppler, there will be some plaques. Echocardiogram, there may be source of MLS. Peripheral blood film, you do. Sometimes leukemias can cause. Then anti-nuclear antibody, angiotensin converting enzyme, anti-nuclear cytoplasmic antibody, they're all to rule out collagen vascular diseases, not in old patients usually you see, but in younger patients with CRAs. Antiphospholipid antibody, protein C and S levels, factor V Leiden deficiencies. So all these are done in younger patients who come with unusual this one. These usually do not occur in older patients. Older patients, carotid and heart. Younger patients, heart again, but other things you have to consider. Neurology consult is a must because CRO is a stroke and he is at risk of developing stroke in the brain. So they must take some measures. We are having problems connecting to the net. Yes, there is some problem. Okay. Which slide are you on now? Hello?
64, sir.
We're on 64, sir.
Okay.
65 now.
65. Okay. Now, you should do fluorescent angiogram. Usually it is not needed because it's very clinical, it's very clear cut. But to complete this one, we'll say what it shows delayed filling of the retinal vessels. Retinal arteries will be shown to be very narrow. You can see the cattle trucking of the blood column. There will be delay in appearance of the dye in the retina. That's called arm to retina, and this one, which is normally about 11 seconds. Then retinal transit time, that is the time of appearance of the dye within the arteries of temporal arcade until the corresponding veins completely filled up. The difference between arteries and veins, so that retinal transit time, usually about 3 to 4 seconds, it's very much prolonged in case of CRO. A late staining of the disc can occur, but the vessels never stain. Whereas in case of CRO, the vessels, veins can stain. Okay. So I'm going to 66, sorry. In FFA, choroidal vasculature fills normally, and if it does not fill, there is usually no red spot, cherry red spot, and then there is visual acuity is no PL. So this is not central retinal artery occlusion, it is actually ophthalmic artery occlusion. In ophthalmic artery occlusion, both choroid as well as retina are not supplied. That's why there is total dark. Okay. Then you should know that fluorescent angiogram reverts to normal, though the arterial narrowing and vision loss persist with time. Okay, if you do fluorescent angiogram later, it may be normal. Are we on 67? Hello?
66, sir.
67?
66 only we are seeing, sir. FFA choroidal vascular. Yes, sir.
Now we're on 67,
Now
sir.
we are on
Okay,
67.
okay. So this patient is actually, you can see that the arteries are filling up very slowly, but you can see that the background is all white because the choroid has filled normally. Only the retinal arteries, this is the arterial phase, the veins are still dark. And in this later also, they are filling so slowly, and the retinal capillaries are not filling. The retinal arteriovenous space is not at all seen clearly. It's not that bright. And there can be some mild staining of the disc, as you can see in this phase. So this is the patient I told you from Kuwait. You can see there is cattle truck appearance, narrow arteries, all signs are there in this case. See this. Actually, there's hardly any blood. This is actually the cilioretinal artery which is filling up little. Okay. Now see, after some time, only some arteries are filled up here and there. Okay. It's so delayed. It's so severe obstruction that there is hardly any filling of the retina. And it's very late. You can see that the veins are not yet filled up. The capillaries have not filled up. Hello, which slide you are? Sorry, I'm going forward. 68 you saw?
7, sir.
69?
No, sir. We are on 67. No, sir.
We are on 67 only, sir.
Che- Maybe my dongle is Z, what is it? Zio dongle is not good then. Okay.
68 now.
We are
72,
on
sir.
72, sir.
We evidently went to send 72. Okay. 69. Can you see 69 now?
Still on 72.
No,
sir.
sir.
What do you see?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now we
sir.
are on 69.
Okay. So you can see that there is hardly any dye in the picture except near the disc. This is actually cilioretinal artery which has filled up. And you can see that it's slowly filling up. It's so slow. Actually, by this time, everything should have been filled up. And you can see the cattle truck appearance. You can see here the blood column is discontinuous. And you can see here again, discontinuous blood column. And there is hardly any circulation in the macula. All of this is devoid of any blood circulation. And very late, arteries are filled up. This 72. Can you see now 72?
Yes, sir.
71? 71?
72, sir.
Yes, sir. 71.
Okay. So the slowly it has filled up. It's so slow. So what I mean to say, the dye enters the circulation so slowly because there is no circulation at all in the central retinal artery. This is a fluorescent angiogram of this CR. You can still see some opacification and a cherry red spot, not very much. But you can see that fluorescent angiogram is almost normal in this case because it was done about 12 days after the CRO. Can you see 73?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now 74. Are you on 74?
No, sir.
73.
73.
God, very frustrating. So what is the solution? Zoom, it never used to happen. I don't know. $74?
No, sir. Still
No,
in
sir.
73.
Still 73.
ಇಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ ಅದನ್ನ ಕಲರ್ ನೋಡ Can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. 74.
So these investigations, ERG and visual fields, more of academic nature. They don't have much practical value. So in ERG, A wave is normal in case of central retinal artery occlusion because photoreceptors are nourished by the choriocapillaries, and A wave is generated by the photoreceptors usually. B wave is generated by Muller cells, and it is diminished because the central retinal artery supplies the inner retina from where the B wave originates. Okay, but it is useful to differentiate CRAO from ophthalmic artery occlusion because in ERG of ophthalmic artery, both A and B wave are affected. Is it clear?
You're
Hello?
Still on 74, sir.
Yeah, 74 only I'm talking. Is it clear what I talked? A wave is normal in case of CRVO, B wave is abnormal. Whereas if there is ophthalmic artery occlusion, both A waves and B waves are abnormal, means they are actually having less amplitude. Is that clear? Can you hear me or not?
Yes, sir. In ophthalmic artery occlusion, both A and B are abnormal.
Yeah, that is because the ophthalmic artery supplies the photoreceptors which generate the A wave, whereas B wave is generated by the inner retina, that's Muller cells usually, and B wave that is supplied by the central retinal artery. So if there is CRAO, B wave is affected, A wave is normal. Whereas if it is ophthalmic artery occlusion, both CRA is knocked off as well as the short ciliary arteries are knocked off. So both A wave and B wave are absent. Okay. Visual fields, usually we don't do, but if we do, we'll see that only temporal island of vision may be remaining because central field is knocked off. And if there is central cilioretinal artery, some central field may be preserved. Now OCT is more of documentation. Can you see now 75?
74, sir.
Sir, temporal island of vision field,
Pardon?
it is for every patient of CRA or
Your voice is echoing. Alex,
it is
your
for
voice
every
is
patient they can.
Tell, tell again.
So the visual field you have told
Visual field usually we don't do, in the sense that the
Sir,
patient will not be
clear,
seeing
sir,
anything. Yes.
Sir, one patient has one case in that patient has seen one spot of light in the temporal field.
Yeah, that's what I told. Actually, some temporal crescent may be saved, some supply may
When
be there.
we do
Yes, some nasal retina may be saved, and if there is cilioretinal artery, some
so
central
every
vision may also be.
CRA will be seen, sir.
No, not necessarily. It depends on the degree of central retinal artery occlusion. There is partial, there may be some, but if there is cilioretinal artery, central vision, central island of vision may also be there. But usually there is large central defect in case of central retinal artery occlusion. Are you seeing 75?
Okay.
75, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So optical coherence tomography usually
Yes, sir.
demonstrates increase inner retinal thickness, as you can see here. You can see that there is actually hyperreflexes from the inner retina because it's all opacified. Okay, there is retinal edema and the nerve fiber layer edema. So because of that, you see this hyperreflexes. Then other investigations is to do to rule out giant cell arteritis. Okay, and so why CRO can occur due to giant cell arteritis, you should know. There are some anatomical variations. What is that anatomical variation? Sometimes ophthalmic artery. Are you on 76?
75, sir.
Okay.
75.
Push yourself. What is this?
Yes, sir. Now we're on 76.
Okay. See, sometimes giant cell arteritis can cause CRO. How it causes? Because they say there are some anatomical variations. What happens? Ophthalmic artery sometimes gives a common trunk, artery branch. From here, two vessels originate: central retinal artery and medial posterior ciliary artery, or sometimes central retinal artery and lateral posterior ciliary artery. Okay, and usually the giant cell arteritis affects the ophthalmic artery and its branches. So at that time, one of these trunks is involved, then there can be a central retinal artery occlusion also. So that can be seen in temporal arteritis. I'll show on picture actually. So as a result, all patients over 50 years of age with CRO, we should suspect temporal arteritis and ask clinically, we should examine them. I'm on 77 now.
Not yet, sir.
So 76 only.
76 only. So in my voice is also lag is there, or it's okay?
Sir,
Voice is fine, sir.
Voice is okay,
Okay.
sir.
Okay,
Just
let me
now
talk.
it's
Yeah, let me-
shifted to 77.
77. Okay, let me go. Okay. No, sorry. Okay. So why we should do, especially patients who are above 50 years or 60 years, usually older actually, we should always suspect temporal arteritis and we should ask clinical history, usually like fever, malaise, joint pain, especially the hip joint pain and weakness, okay, and headache as well as temporal tenderness over the head, scalp tenderness, and we should always do ESR and CRP in these patients. And what is important is giant cell arteritis. If you don't detect, the patient will develop other eye ophthalmic artery occlusion within a week or 2 weeks, and he may lose both the eyes. If you detect and diagnose, you can start steroids. Whatever lost eye in this case, the first presenting eye, he may not recover vision, but will preserve the vision in the other eye. So it's very, very important to always think of giant cell arteritis in case of CRVs. Though it's very rare in India, we somehow don't see that much, but should still think of and do the minimum investigations like ESR, ask clinical history, and a C-reactive protein. I'm on 78 now. Are you? It will go on. I'm on 78.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this, what do you see? Actually, it's very strange case of central retinal artery occlusion. You can see that half of the choroid here, the background is white. That is because the choroid is filling up here, whereas the choroid is not filling up in this part in fluorescein angiogram. And none of the central retinal artery branches are filling up. So this is because I told you ophthalmic artery gives sometimes a branch which divides further into a long posterior ciliary artery or short posterior ciliary arteries plus a central retinal artery. So when it was the part which was supplying the temporal part of the the nasal part of the choroid, those short posterior ciliary arteries, if they are blocked, then definitely you will not see any choroidal circulation here, but you see choroidal circulation here, and plus the central retinal artery. This is an example of the common origin of short ciliary arteries and central retinal artery. Now, what is the? I'm on 79 now. Are you?
Sir, 78.
Okay. I don't know what is the reason. Probably, I think the geo network is poor. I don't know. Or maybe. Are you on 79?
78, sir.
Do you want to finish or you want to take next time? Hello?
We can do in Zoom next time.
I have only 20 slides. If you want to finish off, we'll finish off this topic. It's up to you.
We'll finish, sir.
There is delay. Actually, it may take more time, I think. Are you on 79?
78
No,
only,
sir.
sir.
So what I'll do is I'll run through it and try to upload it to YouTube. You can see there better. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
And in case it's not goes to YouTube, then I will take again with Zoom. Let us see. Okay. So differential
79.
diagnosis is usually it's very clear cut. The diagnosis is very straightforward. Mainly we should differentiate between a central retinal artery occlusion and a ophthalmic artery occlusion. But some of the differential diagnosis is considered Pursh's retinopathy, but the history is very typical, usually trauma or a case of pancreatitis or fever or something of that sort. Fundus findings are a little different. OCT findings are very characteristic. Then there is inadvertent intraocular injection of gentamicin can cause a picture like CRAO, but of course the history of injection will be there. Ischemic optic neuropathy, of course there will be no opacification of the posterior pole, no cherry red spot. Okay. Then ocular ischemic syndrome is one which can cause CRAO, as well as there can be ocular ischemic syndrome. But the ocular ischemic syndrome patients will have retinal hemorrhages in the periphery. There may be NVI and IOP may be low or high depending on what is the problem. Foveal hemorrhage and macular hole can be mistook as a cherry red spot, but of course there will be no opacification of the retina. And other causes of cherry red spot like Tay-Sachs disease and other storage disorders, they usually occur in younger age groups. The children are very debilitated. There are a lot of neurological problems from the very young age. Okay, so it's very clear cut that these patients are having some storage disorders, and those storage disorders all cause abnormal material to be deposited in the ganglion cells. That's why the retina becomes whitish, giving a cherry red spot. Ophthalmic artery occlusion, I already told, that's one thing you should see. Usually in ophthalmic artery occlusion, I have a table actually at the end of the presentation. So this is a case of Pershaw's retinopathy. You can see that the opacification is actually outside, and it goes beyond the arcade also many times, and there can be hemorrhages also. Then arteries are not narrow in this case. So these are the differences between central retinal artery and ophthalmic artery occlusion. Are you on 81? Hello?
Yes, sir, 81.
Okay. So the visual acuity in central retinal artery, it may vary from PL to counting fingers. Okay, sometimes good if there is a cilioretinal artery, or 660, somewhere around that. Whereas in ophthalmic artery, either it is no PL or only PL, maximum is PL. And even if there is cilioretinal artery, it will not preserve vision because it is also supplied by ophthalmic artery. And if it is blocked, ophthalmic artery is blocked, cilioretinal artery is of no use. RAPD is present in both the cases. Cherry red spot is present in CRAO, but it's absent in ophthalmic artery because even the choriocapillaris doesn't fill up. Okay. Whereas ERG is very characteristic, only B wave is reduced, A wave is normal in CRAO, whereas in ophthalmic artery both are reduced. Fluorescent angiogram, you will see the choroidal fill as I showed in many cases, whereas there will be no choroidal fill in case of ophthalmic artery. RPE changes are late, they may occur late in CRAO, and they occur in only about 10% of the patients because RPE's blood supply has not been affected in by CRAO. Whereas in case of ophthalmic artery occlusion, RPE atrophy and hyperpigmentation always takes place, and most of the patients will develop, and of course in later stages. Now, can you see 82? 82. Hello.
No, sir.
No, sir, 81 only.
81 only. Okay. So keep seeing the differences between CRAO and ophthalmic artery occlusion. Okay. Now, very disappointing. So this must be due to my net only, I think. The dongle may not be functioning well. Can you see now 82?
Yes, sir, now we can see.
Okay. So this is actually sometimes central retinal vein and artery occlusions can both occur. Very difficult to diagnose, but usually you see this opacification in the posterior pole if there is combined. And if you do fluorescent angiogram, you can see that there is hardly any filling up of the vessels. Can you see 83?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you can see that there is hardly any filling of the vessels, only the dye has appeared at the disc. Okay. And so slowly the arteries are filling up. So that was 84. Okay. Are you on 85?
No, sir. Yes, sir, now 85.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now we'll go to the proper management. So when you see in the OPD acute, you should definitely do those attempts of massage or giving paracentesis or giving IV Diamox and other things to reverse the circulation. If not, then you start investigating to find the cause and start treatment for that. And in subacute cases, means in subacute measures, we usually try to prevent neovascular complications to the eye. They occur less often than in CRVO. And long term, we should think of what happens to the ischemic events in the other eye or other end organs like heart, brain. We should always think of them and refer to neurologist and physician for proper management. Can you see 86? 86.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
CRO is a classic disease without treatment, has so many treatments because there is no proven treatment actually. And natural history of the disease suggests that spontaneous visual recovery is extremely rare in case of CRO. Most of them end up with poor vision. This is 86. Okay. So there are so many treatments to do that. I told about the acute measures. They're actually called as conventional methods. There are some radical methods to break that clot. We'll come to that. Are you on 87?
Seven.
Okay. What is the problem is usually patients come after the window of reversibility. I told you retinal ischemia tolerance that usually about maximum is 4 hours, but most of them they come next day. So there is no established treatment to reverse the obstruction. We talked about the conservative treatment. And why don't we treat the stroke of the eye similar to stroke of the heart or brain? So, coming to the conservative treatment of massage, paracentesis and everything, most of the times it doesn't give good results. They say it succeeds only about, there is some improvement of vision of about 15%. That too occurs in less than 50% of the patients. But whether that is natural history or due to treatment, nobody knows. Okay, so that's very controversial, and most of the people feel that whatever intervention, conventional intervention we do, it's of no use. I'm on 88.
Yes, sir. 88.
Okay, now 89. So somebody may ask, so in coronary artery disease or stroke, they give actually the thrombolytic treatment they give, correct? Immediately they give, if the patient presents in within some whatever time frame they have, they give that so that the clot get dissolves and the carotid artery disease attack or the stroke gets reversed, correct? So why can't we do for central retinal artery? So they can do local intra-arterial as well as systemic. They have tried. So I'll mention one actually this is I'm on 90. Are you on 90?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Okay. So a study called EAGLE study called European Assessment Group for Lysis in the Eye. Actually what they did, they took cases who were presenting within 20 hours of the onset of central retinal artery occlusion. So in one group they gave tissue plasminogen activator by intervention radiologist. He gave into the ophthalmic artery directly so that it will go to the central retinal artery and lyse the clot. Okay, and another group received conservative treatment like massage, intravenous acetazolamide or whatever it is. Both group received aspirin tablets. And at the end of 1 or 2 years, when they concluded the study, they found that there was no significant difference in clinical improvement between the lysis and standard therapy. So both were effective. Both were ineffective actually. So, but however, the rate of adverse events means side effects were very much higher in case where you tried intra-arterial fibrinolysis. So it was about 37% compared to 4.3%, means there was bleeding and other side effects in these patients. So usually nobody tries ophthalmic artery cannulation, but there are some papers which have supported this. Now another one, why can't we give intravenous fibrinolytic agents just like in stroke or coronary artery disease? And actually there is a meta-analysis by Dumetro of many studies. They show that if CRO presents within 4 hours and if we give intravenous fibrinolytic agent, I'm on 91 now. Are you on 91? Hello?
Sir, 90.
90. Okay.
You're on 90, sir.
Okay, 90 is okay. EAGLE study. So what I want to tell is, so if we give ophthalmic artery, that antifibrinolytic agent through ophthalmic artery, there was no benefit. Actually, the side effects were more. But of course, there are some studies, if you see literature, where they have reported good results. But usually, many people are actually skeptic about it. Are you on 91 now?
Sir, the
90,
slide
sir.
has changed, but the number is still showing 90. It's
Slide, okay.
management with intravenous.
Yes. Okay. That is the one. Okay. Now I told you, why can't you give intravenous fibrinolytic agent as we give in case of, say, coronary artery disease or stroke? So, and many people have tried, and all those studies were evaluated in a meta-analysis, and it shows that it is useful only if they present within 4 hours of onset of central lateral artery. So they give streptokinase, urokinase, alteplase. Some people have given what is that, trypsin also. Okay, so all those they show better visual outcomes if they come within 4 hours, but getting cases before 4 hours is usually impossible. So that's why most of the studies show very poor results. Now regarding neovascular complications, so patients of CRO can develop neovascularization of the iris and neovascular glaucoma, but it's very rare. It's only about 2.5%, but it can go up to 31% in some series. And what is important is, if at all they develop very fast. In CRO, usually it's about 3 months, whereas these people develop usually within 3 to 4 weeks, maximum 5 weeks. So very important. Okay. So you have to frequently follow up these patients and do PRPC if there is a NVI. And sometimes they may, I'm on 93 now. Can you see 93? 92?
No, sir, we are on 91 only.
91 only. Okay. So there are 2 types of dissolving the clot. One is giving in through the ophthalmic artery. Another is giving systemically through anticubital vein, systemic intravenous treatment. So both are not being universally accepted. What I want to tell is, they are not being universally accepted. And most of the results show that the results are good only if the patient comes within very short time of onset of CRO. So within 4 hours. So you can imagine somebody coming from village, by the time he reaches the KLE, maybe KLE will be closed. So that's the reason most of the CRO patients we see, they do not have very good visual outcomes. Okay. So by natural, some patients may have some re-establishment of circulation, or maybe it is partial closure. So they may some retain some vision like 660, but most of them will not have vision. Okay. Now, and are you on 92?
Yes, sir, 92.
Okay. So sometimes neovascularization of the iris and angle can take place, and it usually occurs earlier than in CRO, usually between 2 to 16 weeks. The average is 5 weeks, whereas in CRO is about 3 months, neovascular glaucoma, we call it as 90-day glaucoma or 100-day glaucoma. Okay. So whenever we see NVI or NVD, we do a PRPC. So this is I'm on 93. You can see some neovascularization of the disc. Can you see?
No, sir, we are on 92 only.
Okay. So I'm on 93 now. Pranit, are you there or you left?
I'm here, sir.
You're there. Okay.
Yes, sir, I'm here, sir.
93?
Yes, sir, 93, sir. Now.
Okay. So this is a very rarely they develop actually a disc vessel. So this one case actually. Now I'm on 94 now. So nothing much in this. What I want to tell is, central retinal artery, if you see a patient, listen to this carefully. It's very important to find the cause. Most of the times you are not able to treat the eye and reverse it. Number one. So you have to find the cause of proper investigations, and you have to appraise the patient and refer him to a neurologist and a cardiologist so that the underlying disease is treated and further strokes or vascular ischemic events are prevented. It's very important from the point of view of life of the patient. You got my point? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are on 94. That's what the 94 slide says. Are you seeing 94?
Yes,
in
sir.
93, sir.
Are you?
No, sir, it's 94. Management long-term, preventing
Yes.
other
Okay.
vascular
Yes, sir,
ischemic
now it is
events.
Okay. So very important is they may need anticoagulant treatment. So very important. CRVO, you can do a lot of treatment for macular edema, intraocular injection, everything, falana. But CRAO, most of the times you don't do anything. You can't do anything rather. So only thing you have to diagnose, investigate, find the cause of CRAO and refer him to neurologist and a cardiologist, so that the basic underlying thing is, that is your duty. If we don't do, we have failed in our duty. So don't send the patient back home with just tears. Okay. Now, very important, just read this slide. I'm on 95 now. So it's okay, even if you can't see, what I want to tell is, suppose a patient develops CRAO, okay? Now you leave him just like that without doing anything. And compare him with a patient who doesn't have CRAO. His average life is only about 5.5 years, whereas those without CRAO, age match, they live about 15 years. So CRAO actually portends, or it is fortune telling, that the lifespan is reduced if you don't take care of him for his ischemic events and vascular events. Okay, so because they're more likely to suffer stroke and ISD, so they should be aggressively treated. So what I want to convey from this lecture is this: you have to take care of his systemic problems along with the help of cardiologist and a neurologist. So are you seeing 95 slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the life expectancy of CRO patients is 5.5 years compared to 15.4 years of the similar aged patients without CRA, because they suffer stroke and other problems more often. Okay, now 96. For vision, what is the prognosis? Usually only 10%, they show some spontaneous reperfusion, or less than that. Actually, I have not seen anybody doing a spontaneous this one. And people suffering from CRO usually end up with vision of 2200 or less, most of the people. So this is the prognosis for vision is usually extremely poor. Most of them end up with vision of 2200 or worse. That's what the 96 slide says. Are you seeing 96 slide? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So most of the times the visual acuity, visual prognosis is not good. So that's all for today. Thank you for sorry for the trouble. I don't know, let me try next time Zoom. Okay. So let us hope that will be better. Any questions?
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir, both CR, central retinal artery occlusion and ophthalmic artery occlusion, both RAPD will be present, no, sir?
Yes, they are definitely present. Because whole retina has been devoid of blood supply, so there will be no stimulation. So definitely there will be.
So what is the role?
What is
Then
that?
what will be the role in VEP, sir? Visual evoked potential for the CRA patient.
Visual evoked potential, visually we don't do for this. Visual evoked potential is done for patients who are having optic nerve and beyond, these visual pathways. Okay. So visual evoked potential you do when there is ERG is normal. Understand that. So when the ERG itself is abnormal, there is no point in doing visual evoked potential. Read about visual evoked potential. Visual evoked potential is done only when the optic nerve is able to send the signals from the retina. For example, what do you get in case of retinitis pigmentosa? The retina has been completely destroyed. ERG itself is abnormal. You do visual evoked potential, it will be abnormal. But what we want to say, when the retina is normal, ERG is normal, the signals from the retina to the brain, that is recorded by visual evoked potential. So that passage route is optic nerve and onwards. So whether optic nerve and onwards they are normal or not is seen by visual evoked potential. So you don't do visual evoked potential in central retinal artery occlusion. It's of no use. Any retinal disease, when you suspect, you do ERG first. If it is normal, no need. If it is abnormal, we cannot do. We should not do. Only when it is normal,
First we have to,
do ERG. Yes,
sorry.
definitely. Retina
Okay, sir.
has to be normal. There is no point in doing.
First you have to go with the carotid artery angiogram or Doppler, sir.
No, you are jumping from this. Okay. So when a case old patient comes, okay. So how do you approach? You actually see his pulse, palpate his carotid arteries. If there is carotid artery is less palpable or less a stronger pulsation, then compared to that, put your stethoscope, the other part of the smaller part of the stethoscope, and listen if there is bruit. and there is no bruit, or if there is no circulation at all, no pulsation, that means carotid artery stenosis due to some blockage. So you do carotid Doppler. Or you do auscultate heart if there is any regurgitation. Okay, so that means that may be the source of emboli. So, but in all old patients, you do both. You have to do carotid Doppler as well as echocardiogram. Young patients also, of course, echocardiograph you do, but you don't do carotid Doppler because atherosclerosis is less likely in patients who are 40 years and below. So there you start thinking of rheumatological disorders and start investigating in that line. Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
So what will be the time window till when we'll do the treatment, the massage and the parasympathesis?
Yeah. So that massage and all, I told you what is the retinal ischemia tolerance time. So according to Hare, in monkeys, it's about 4 hours.
Yes.
Okay. So if you take the same analogy in humans, we can do 4 hours, definitely we should do, but up to 24 hours is reasonable too. That's what they say. But I quoted about a study where they have done a lot of conventional treatment, other treatments. There is no benefit at all, and they feel that only if it is about 20 minutes is actually there in humans. If it is more than 20 minutes, probably there will be no use. Okay, but definitely it is reasonable to do up to 24 hours. But if the patient comes, even if it is 1 day to about 2 days, 3 days, you may do it just to satisfy yourself, but it may not yield any results. It is impossible actually. By 24 hours, the retina has gone actually. That's called retina tolerance time.
Yes. So what time if
Okay, tell me.
the patient has come
Hmm.
and we are suspecting some cardiovascular problem, but the patient has come within the window period, so we go for the ophthal treatment first, or we
Yeah, of course,
send for the
ophthalmic treatment
cardiac?
first. Of course. First, you should do ophthalmic treatment.
Yes.
What is that conventional treatment you do? Okay. When you do conventional treatment, what we mean is massage, paracentesis, everything you do. And if it settles, good.
Yes, sir.
If it settles or doesn't settle, you have to refer him to neurologist and do all investigation to know the source of the embolus and treat the underlying condition. Okay. Suppose it doesn't settle.
Okay.
Then can you
Yes.
think of fibrinolytic agents? So we don't have facility for intra-arterial facility in ophthalmic artery, but systemic can we give? So that you have to discuss with a neurologist or a cardiologist whether you should do. And I told you that it is useful only if it is below 24 hours or something. One study I quoted. So if it is below 4 hours, you can do that, or if it be even up to 20 hours, you can try. But usually most of the times they come after 20 or 24 hours. Patients may not be fit for that treatment because they have a lot of complications. Systemic fibrinolytic agents can cause brain hemorrhage and so many side effects they have. And the intra-arterial giving into ophthalmic artery, I don't think that facility is available everywhere, and every interventional radiologist may not be able to do that. So there are a lot of catches there actually. But you said correct, if he has come within 24 hours, try the conventional measures like paracentesis, hypotony causing drugs, massage, all those things you try. And after that, you go for investigations to find out what is the cause. Then start treating. And if you have facilities to give antifibrinolytic agents, you do try.
Okay.
Anything else? Yes, Aman.
So that's all.
So shall we call it a day?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So you
Thank you,
want RD?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You want RD, but
Sir,
RD we covered actually. You want again?
Yes, sir. We had done PPV.
Yeah, only
Vitrectomy,
treatment by
we
PPE
had,
was remaining.
because it's important for exam, so PPV would be good.
If you want the whole RD again, actually it's a little long topic. We took about 2 lectures or so. What do you want? Let me know.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In your group, you put it
Yes.
and let me know. If you want both, it will be 2 lectures actually. And we'll try on Zoom. Let us see. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay then. Shall we call it a day?
Yes, sir.
Okay then. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
sir.
much. Bye.
Thank you,
Take care.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye, sir.